Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst. I'm Reverend Michelle Buhite, the minister of this congregation. My pronouns, which I offer to create a truly inclusive and brave space for all to live into the fullness of their identities, are she and her. I'm joined up front today by our Director of Faith Development, Angela Warren, and also with Sonia Jensen-Schell, who is going to be playing the piano for us today. So thank you. So you will not be able to time my sprint going back and forth this week, so I'm very excited about that. As Unitarian Universalists, we are people of the wide path, engaging in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and coming together to make a difference. We are glad that you have chosen to be here in person and virtually. For those in the chapel, I invite you to put your phones on reverence mode, silencing them so that you and all may be fully present and free from distraction. You may have noticed on your way in that at the back of the chapel there's a round table with another table with all sorts of mysterious objects on it to create a morning altar. Each week there are different things on the table. Feel free to bring natural elements from your yard on your way to church, and we create a wonderful altar of creativity. And it is also a study in non-attachment because it doesn't last very long. It lasts pretty much till the end of the service, and I put away the things that will last, like the stones and the flower petals and such. By then, they're pretty much done. So if you did not have an opportunity on your way in to contribute to that visual piece, I hope that on your way out you will, and start making that a part of your routine when you come to church. As we gather, we acknowledge that our church is built on occupied land that once belonged to the First Nations people of this region, the Haudenosaunee, and before them, the Neutrals. May we be good stewards of the land and courageously cultivate community with all living things. And Angela, if you don't mind staying there for the chalice lighting. I offer this chalice lighting written by retired minister Mark Bellatini. We gather to light our chalice to openly declare that love is greater than hate and truth is greater than cowardice, deception, or dishonesty. This we do that we might shape our lives to greatness, as a weaver might take beautiful threads to make a still more beautiful weaving, or as a musician will strike many beautiful notes to make an even more splendid song. Come, embracing fountain of love and truth, thrive in our reason and passion, fire our lives, our faith, and our community. May it be so. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I'm on the blue mic. I want to talk to you a little bit about where we are in the wheel of the year. We are at the cusp of the autumnal equinox. So the way that I like to think about the various points on the wheel of the year, particularly the solstices and the equinoxes, is that they represent different parts in the world, the various directions. And so when we are in the spring of the year, think of that as the east, which, just as a point of information, is over here. For those of you who watch the sun travel as the service progresses, east is associated with the spring equinox. The south, over that way, is associated with the summer solstice. And if you think about the wheel of the year being also like a clock face, that you get up in the morning, and then around noon the sun is up fully, and you're fully engaged in whatever the work of the day might be. And so that is associated with the summer solstice. The west, which is where we find ourselves approaching this week, is the place of the autumnal or fall equinox. And the west represents the place of rest. Think just after dinner time, when you can finally perhaps sit down and read a book or watch a little television or just sit on the porch and enjoy the day, that time of rest. And then the north is associated with the winter solstice, and you might think of that as being midnight. It is a time of mystery, and it is a time maybe when the ancestors visit you in dreams. So we are at the autumnal equinox. So I'm going to teach you a song that has to do with the wheel of the year and how it moves. And you will find in your order of service part of the song. It has the chorus, which is where it begins with the words, "The wheel goes round," and then there are verses. I will be showing the verses on the screen, but if all you want to do is join in on the chorus, because that's the easiest part, and I fully endorse you singing with great gusto once you've heard it a couple times, to join in there. And if you're feeling really brave, sing along with me for the whole thing, okay? I'm going to try to do I need tentacles, that's just what I need. So, Sonia, if you will play the chorus part the 2 times through, and then we'll start singing it. Here we go. The wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Repeat. The wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Now listen. Honor the day and honor the night. Honor the darkness and honor the light. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Honor the heat and honor the cold. Honor the young and honor the old. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Honor the head and honor the heart. Honor the ending and honor the start. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Honor the desert and honor the rain. Honor the mountains and honor the plain. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. Honor the west and honor the east. Honor the fasting and honor the feast. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round. This is the last verse. Honor the south and honor the north. Honor the homecoming and going forth. And the wheel goes round and the wheel goes round, and the wheel goes round, and the wheel goes round. Thank you. We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such a people, we make bold promises about how we will strive to be with one another. I invite you to join with me as we speak our congregational covenant, our promise. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world.
Our time for all ages today comes from my favorite children's author other than Dr. Seuss, Arnold Lobel. He wrote the Frog and Toad stories and Mouse Tales and a book about Owl. This is called Tearwater Tea. Owl took the kettle out of the cupboard. "Tonight I will make tearwater tea," he said. He put the kettle on his lap. "Now," said Owl, "I will begin." Owl sat very still. He began to think of things that were sad. "Chairs with broken legs," said Owl. His eyes began to water. "Songs that cannot be sung because the words have been forgotten." Owl began to cry. A large tear rolled down and dropped into the kettle. "Spoons that have fallen behind the stove and are never seen again," said Owl. More tears dropped into the kettle. "Books that cannot be read," said Owl, "because some of the pages have been torn out. Clocks that have stopped with no one near to wind them up." Owl was crying. Many large tears dropped into the kettle. "Mornings nobody saw because everybody was sleeping," sobbed Owl. "Mashed potatoes left on a plate," he cried, "because no one wanted to eat them. And pencils that are too short to use." Owl thought about many other sad things. He cried and cried. Soon the kettle was filled with tears. "There," said Owl, "that does it." Owl stopped crying. He put the kettle on the stove to boil for tea. Owl felt happy as he filled his cup. "It tastes a little bit salty," he said, "but tearwater tea is always very good." Each of us carries with us into this time cares and concerns, joys and sorrows. Together, we create the container where we can put down our burdens, knowing they are held gently by this gathered community. For those joining virtually, I invite you to give voice to that which is on your heart, or perhaps type it into the chat in the live stream. For those here in the chapel, I invite you to come forward and place a stone or shell on the table labyrinth in recognition of that which is on your heart.
Please join me in a communal response. In this gathered community, we hold one another and the world in love. I invite you to either open your hymnals or watch the screen. We're singing hymn number 83, Winds Be Still. And I'm deciding, maybe we'll stay seated for this. This is sort of a meditative song. Winds Be Still. Be still, storm clouds pass and silence come, peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. Bird, fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far, and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shine in, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new songs that become full symphony. Our call to engagement comes from author of How Not to Be Afraid, Gareth Higgins.
Sometimes we're just lost. We experience so much fear in the world and in our daily lives. And we've been taught there's only 3 ways to respond: to fight back, to run away, or to freeze in place and maybe even scrunch up our eyes so the monster doesn't get us. I'm sure you've had your share of fear. I have too. I grew up in a society that was so politically polarized that we actually turned to violence against each other, and untold suffering was caused. At the same time, there was a shadow side to religion that taught many of us to reject ourselves or even hate ourselves. I've got good news. That's just a story. The beliefs we hold about fear and the beliefs we hold about ourselves are just stories. And if you're willing to take a risk and experiment with the possibility that there might be a better story, I think you might find this good news too. We can turn the oppositional energy of fighting against fear into the energy of activism in community for the common good. You can turn the energy of running away from fear into the energy of turning to face your fears and maybe not overcome them, but at least get bigger than the things that you're afraid of. And instead of freezing in place, there's a story and a way of being that can melt what freezes us, connect us with each other, and show us that the idea that we're not alone isn't just a nice cliched or poetic thought. It's actually true. My hope in this book is that together we can learn more of this better story and turn our fear into excitement. My name's Gareth Higgins, and this is How Not to Be Afraid.
The beliefs we hold about fear and the beliefs we hold about ourselves are just stories. There is a better story that can transform the energy of fear into community and working for the common good. I was not really aware of the fear-based stories I was telling myself until I listened to Gareth Higgins narrate his book, How Not to Be Afraid. In fact, I really rather prided myself on my general lack of fear. Having witnessed my mother's pervasive fear and how it robbed her of not only adventure, but of joy, she was always imagining and anticipating the worst-case scenario, I vowed that I would not let fear rule my life. So it was a bit of a surprise and a wake-up call when I encountered Higgins' book. And it made me wonder about the fears that bind us. I want to say up front that fear is not necessarily negative. Indeed, it has the potential to keep us safe from harm, but only up to a point. It is the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we choose to believe about the things we fear that can be detrimental to our well-being and to our emotional and spiritual health. Your fears may not be the same as mine, but our conditioned responses to those fears will be similar. Higgins identifies 3 common responses to fearful situations. You've probably heard of them yourself: fight, flight, and freeze. However, author Megan Watterson adds a 4th, fawning. This 4th response is based in relationships where there is an imbalance of power, whether that is physical, emotional, or social. Someone who is suffering abuse in an intimate relationship may resort to fawning as a way to diffuse an escalating situation or prevent its onset. All of these responses are really stories we tell ourselves about what to do with fear. Higgins writes, and I quote, "When we are afraid, we repeat stories we have learned that say we must either lash out, run away, or be immobilized. Sometimes, because of the stories we tell in our fear, we hurt others. We lash out at family members or start wars. Sometimes in our fear, we try to escape from the voices in our heads, and we leave unfinished the work we are here to do and the gifts we are here to share. Sometimes in our fear, we go numb, stay stuck, and do nothing. We miss life, and the people we could share it with miss us. Fighting back against fear tends to provoke a rebound of even more aggressive, fearful reaction. Running away from it diminishes our lives. Freezing changes nothing." End of quote. The fearful stories that we tell ourselves and choose to believe can lead us to disappear from our own lives. My mother never learned to swim because she was afraid of the water. I think she was probably afraid of what she couldn't see if she wasn't wearing her contacts. But since swimming would have required her to take out her contacts or remove her glasses, the fear of not seeing well became a fear of water. I, on the other hand, loved the water and learned to swim at an early age. Her fear of the water was compounded by her fear for my safety and her inability to help should something go wrong. Fear upon fear upon fear, all of which kept her from participating with family and friends and left her fretting alone on the shore. We all have different fears and different stories that we tell ourselves and choose to believe. Spiders, snakes, vampires, shadowy alleys. We could probably collect hundreds of things that provoke fear in us as individuals, but there are some fears that we all share. Higgins identifies 7. Fear of being alone, fear of having done something that can't be fixed, fear of a meaningless life, fear of not having enough, fear that will be broken forever, fear of the world, fear of death. I think this is probably where I should let you know that Higgins doesn't just name and describe our fears. He offers ways to change the stories that we tell ourselves and that we choose to believe about our fears. So let's briefly examine each of these fears, and maybe we'll find some new stories. The fear of being alone is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I ran into an acquaintance recently at a gathering. This person was standing off alone, so I went to say hello. They spoke about their loneliness, and I applauded their courage for showing up at the gathering and encouraged them to connect with some of the other participants. This person remained at the edge and eventually departed, quite likely feeling more isolated and alone than if they had not come at all. My heart hurts at the recognition of a loneliness that is rooted in a fear of being invisible, of having no one notice, of not being known. Gareth Higgins offers an antidote for the fear of being alone, and that is to befriend your deepest self. You might call it self-love. He suggests an active meditation practice that is repeated at the beginning of each day. So we're going to try this together. We'll repeat it just twice. I am being made by love and for love. I am being made by love. I am being made. I am. I am being made by love and for love. I am being made by love. I am being made. I am. Feel different? Probably not after 2 repetitions, but if you engage the practice, even for just a few days, I believe you will notice the change. In late August, I went to a 5-day conference that included scheduling a follow-up Zoom meeting. In my small group of 6, only 2 of the participants were consulted to set a date. The date chosen was not convenient for me, but I knew I could manage to make it work. You know, go along to get along. But it bothered me. I felt invisible and disregarded. Upon my return home, I used the active meditation each day for a week, after which I felt whole enough to contact the facilitator and express my concern. I chose to become visible, to not disappear from my own life. The unintended slight was not a big deal, but it was a big deal for me to value myself enough to seek resolution and not just swallow the hurt feelings. I bet you could employ this simple exercise in your own life and experience a similar affirmation of your inherent worth and dignity. That might be a phrase that rings a bell. The fear of having done something that can't be fixed is based in a fear of incompetence or causing unintended harm. Have you ever accidentally pressed send after writing a scathing email? I think we can probably all relate to something like that. That awful sinking feeling and the desire to somehow take it all back. I had a coworker once that did that very thing. Once she realized what she had done, she drove to that person's house and demanded to be let in so she could delete the email before they read it. You can imagine how that turned out. The fear of a meaningless life is the shadow side of desiring to live with purpose. At first glance, it looks pretty harmless. But remember the responses to fear that we have learned: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Wanting to live a meaningful life can be the nudge we need to leave a legacy. But the fear of a meaningless life might goad us into a fight response that leads to unsavory or even illegal actions. According to Higgins, the antidote is to heal yourself and others through being of service, honoring the ecosystem, your neighbor, and yourself, and devoting yourself to love. The next fear is the one that is most likely to trip me up, the fear of not having enough. Not having enough education, not having enough energy to be everything for everyone, not having enough courage to confront a person or a system that is destructive, not having enough resources, whether that is money, friends, or creativity. At the end of the book, Gareth Higgins offers some blessings, and I share with you his blessing of enough. May you come to see that you are enfolded into the God who laughs. Your place in the universe is assured, and you are limited only by the story you are telling yourself. It is said those who own their story get to benefit from it and can become healing agents amid the darkness of shame and fear. Owning the story means owning time. Owning time makes you capable of miracles. May you learn to own your story so that you can heal yourself. In response to the fear that we'll be broken forever, Higgins offers elders, mentors, community. To alleviate fear of the world, perhaps we can be more choosy about what we view and listen to. I'm talking about our addiction to the news. Something shifted in the world when news became available 24/7. And it shifted yet again when we could access that news on our portable handheld devices. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the relentless images of war, violence, terror, ecological disaster, and the like, turn it off. Go for a walk. Take a nap. We are not wired to be in a constant state of panic. We may not be able to stop the wars, save the polar bears, or change the hearts and minds of our neighbors, but we can reduce our own fear and anxiety by finding other things to pay attention to. I like the idea of, something like gathering with others. I wonder how that would happen. It's a mystery. I'll never know. Gather and do the work of beloved community. The last fear on the list is the fear of death. Humans are not so good at dealing with uncertainty, and death is the ultimate mystery, the ultimate unknown. But Higgins suggests that we are already acquainted with this and have nothing to fear. He writes, and I share, it's an extended quote because it's a story. Before the day came, you'd been in the cave, the first time you died, the first time you read the right paragraph, Michelle, the first time you died, you had been alive forever. You didn't know this at the time, but you had been living in a cave, surrounded by water so perfectly warm it was always fine to swim in, and so perfectly balanced you could even breathe it. It was a lovely cave. Before the day came, you'd been in the cave for as long as you could remember. In fact, from the perspective you now inhabit, I'm not sure remember is an applicable term for the way you thought about the world. There was no past or future. You were just hanging out in the cave, defining the archetype of being cradled, periodically bouncing a little or kicking a bit, but for the most part, sucking your thumb and ruling the universe. And then an earthquake. The water you were breathing suddenly dispersed beneath you, a rushing, silent whoosh being the last thing you didn't hear before you were squeezed down a tunnel that got narrower as you neared its exit. You didn't understand then what suffocating was, but you could certainly describe it now, your lungs coming under immediate and brutal pressure to exchange the amniotic fluid they had been breathing for the past 9 months for the oxygen they would receive for the next whatever number of years. You'd had a good ride, I suppose. A whole life consisting of nothing but having your needs met and sleeping. So complaining would have been churlish. Still, you were probably irritated. You had just gotten used to the cave, and now you were dying, unable to breathe, accelerating in anxiety toward who knows what. He goes on more, but I'll leave it there. Of course, those of us who are lucky enough to be here, virtually and in person, know that how that death, that ultimate uncertainty, turned out. There are things we can't explain. There are things we can't control. We've already experienced the truth of these assertions. So maybe, just maybe, we can relax our white-knuckle grip on life and release the fear of death. It's just one more mystery in a long line of unusual events. So, we've managed to condense 200 pages of text to 15 minutes of reflection. To say I've barely scratched the surface should be obvious. If you are interested in a deeper dive, I strongly suggest you read the book. And if you enjoy deep dives with companions, please consider joining the book study discussion that will happen on Friday evenings in October. You'll find the invitation on the website, in the monthly newsletter, and on the back of your order of service today. That's 3 ways, just right here and now. They say you have to say things 7 ways and 7 different times, so I'll keep working, but there's 3 good ones. Oh, a 4th. There's a sign-up sheet in the lobby. There you go. There's your 4th one. I close this reflection with another of Gareth Higgins' blessings. A blessing for seeing in the dark. No one can know your darkness like you can, and even you will not know it unless you face it. Strange, I know, to imagine facing something you cannot see. But there are things that can only be found in the dark. There is a light that can only be seen in the dark. There may even be fragments or dimensions of love that will only touch you if you let them visit you in the dark. You are here not just to save the world, but to be changed. So may nighttime bring you in touch with memory, an examen of the day with gratitude and learning, of the year, of your life, and the 7 generations that brought you here, and with the possibility of the year, of your life, and the 7 generations to come. May you wake from your dreams laughing and carry innocence becoming wonder wherever you go. May you tread lightly on the earth. Know that she belongs to you, and in her is your belonging too. I'm going to invite you to sing with me. We will stand, I think. It's found in your teal hymnal. The words and music will be showing on the screen, and so it will be kind of small from the distance. So I do suggest accessing the hymnal, and it is 1012, When I Am Frightened. Go ahead and rise. When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me? Comfort me tenderly. Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love. You may be seated.
Well, that got me. I'm so glad to have you back, Michelle. It's the second story from Arnold Lobel, and this one be read as a meditation in story form, and it's called Owl and the Moon. Excuse me. One night, Owl went down to the seashore. He sat on a large rock and looked out at the waves. Everything was dark. Then a small tip of the moon came up over the sea. Oops. Owl watched the moon. It climbed higher and higher in the sky. Soon the whole round moon was shining. Owl sat on the rock and looked up at the moon for a long time. If I am looking at you, moon, then you must be looking back at me. We must be very good friends. The moon did not answer, but Owl said, I will come back and see you, moon, but now I must go home. Owl walked down the path. He looked up at the sky. The moon was still there. It was following him. No, no, moon, said Owl. It is kind of you to light my way, but you must stay up over the sea where you look so fine. Owl walked a little farther and he looked at the sky again, and there was the moon coming right along with him. "Dear moon," said Owl, "you really must not come home with me. My house is too small. You would not fit through the door, and I have nothing to give you for supper." Owl kept on walking. The moon sailed after him over the tops of trees. "Moon," said Owl, "I think that you do not hear me." Owl climbed to the top of the hill. He shouted as loudly as he could, "Goodbye, moon!" The moon went behind some clouds. Owl looked and looked. The moon was gone. "It is always a little sad to say goodbye to a friend," said Owl. Owl came home. He put on his pajamas and went to bed. The room was very dark. Owl was feeling very sad. All at once, Owl's bedroom was filled up with silver light. Owl looked out the window. The moon was coming from behind the clouds. "Moon, you have followed me all the way home. What a good, round friend you are," said Owl. Then Owl put his head on the pillow and closed his eyes. The moon was shining down through the window. Owl did not feel sad at all.
Our service is drawing to an end, which means our service to the world is ready to begin. So let me tell you about some opportunities to connect and serve in the days to come. This is telling number 5. There's a book group that's going to be happening in the month of October, reading a really great book that I could tell you some things about. Oh, wait, I did. Remind, there is a sign-up sheet. That is the easiest, low-techiest way to indicate your interest. Signing up for it does not mean that you are morally obligated to participate. It just says you're interested. I know how UUs can be that way. Oh, no, I'm not going to sign up. I'll magically arrive. Ha ha. I want to talk to you about coffee hour. So today, after you have a chance to get your coffee, if you would like to join in some conversation about the recent Living Green Festival that happened here and would like to share some feedback, we'll be meeting under the tent. So drag a chair and your coffee, maybe carry something else too to make it really hard, and join us under the tent. So get your coffee and it'll be a chance to have some conversation. Speaking of coffee hour, dun dun dun, we have passed a hurdle and we can have snacks. So, but we still want to be safe about how we do snacks. So the request is, if you would like to participate in this, again, fully optional, you could bring some packaged cookies. Oreos are easiest, and like Chips Ahoy kind of chocolate chip. But just make sure there are no nuts, because we do have some folks with nut sensitivities, and so we don't want to cause unintended harm. So if you would like, if you feel so moved, and it's okay if one day there are 8 packages of cookies, because they're packages and we can store them in the kitchen, and then there will be magic cookies on some Sunday when no one remembers to bring them. So you can participate as you wish. Another thing that you can participate in is to support the church with your financial gift. So there will be a basket at the back if you'd like to do that on your way out, or you can go to our website and click on the giving link, or you can text your gift, and the information is on the screen. So many ways to connect and be part of things. I'm going to invite you to rise and bow to your spirit as we sing our closing blessing, and just remain standing while we extinguish the chalice. Okay, please rise. And do remember that you're singing to one another. I mean, it's lovely that you're all singing to me, but occasionally just steal a glance, a sneaky glance around you, so that someone else might feel included in your song. Here we go. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. Wait. May the road rise up to greet you as you leave your past behind. I will think about you gently, and I'll hold you in my mind. Look at each other. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. Join me. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world. Go in peace, serve the world with love.